Oh yeah, what is up, guys? It's Cozy here. Guys, welcome back for another episode. We got some fantasy top content. We're back. We are so back, guys. Listen, man. I'm sorry. My bad. I know it's been a little while here. If you're one of my loyal subscribers here now, you're probably wondering, like, dude, fantasy has been launched for what, a week and a half, coming up on 2 weeks here. Not a single video from me. Hey, my bad, man. You know, listen, man, when a guy says he's got a lot going on, that's been me, man. That's been me this last week and a half here, man. Just living life. I'm doing a lot, man. Staying busy on the fantasy grind set, man. Just getting after it. If some of you might have tuned in just last Friday here, we did the first fantasy show. Honestly, guys, just shout out to the team. Shout out to Travis, Kippet, Mikado, all of those guys for bringing me on as the host of the fantasy show. I'm coming back soon on Fridays. I don't think we're doing one on this Friday, but I think that this following Friday, we are going to be dropping our second fantasy show, the Sports Center of Fantasy Top. And guys, I've just been having so much fun in the game, but honestly, man, my fingers, man, I've just been tweeting, dude. I've just been firing off banger after banger, at least to me, right? Just living the floor fluencer life on Mainnet here, trying to get a handle on things, having a lot of fun with it. I hope for some of you that my beginner's guide, has been helpful along the way to get a sense of how to play the game. And guys, I don't really have too much of a plan for tonight. I've just got a few things that I want to run through here. I'll give you guys just kind of some of my general thoughts on how things have been going. I'll take you through how I'm kind of thinking about these upcoming tournaments that we have here for week 2, with a main tournament launching tomorrow, and on Thursday, a commons only tournament with a twist. So I just threw a Zin in. My wife is out for the night. The kids are in bed. So guys, this is just a little cozy time in the evening. Maybe you're watching this during the morning or in the afternoon. Grab a cup of coffee, maybe a tea, whatever's cozy to you, and strap in. We're just going to take a look at some things, and hey, no agenda. We're just going to riff. We're just going to riff, baby. We're just going to see where the wind takes us. So guys, it's a fun time to be looking in the market here. We've got the second wave of heroes that just dropped with fantasy, about 40 new personalities that are on the app now. And I've just been having a ton of fun, guys. In addition to, hopefully making some good money along the way. Honestly, you saw me tweet this yesterday. I just have been following the fun. And so fantasy has really become one of my biggest bull theses, not just for all of the, I think, incentive alignment that it brings, being built on top of Blast, just having a good grasp of just the space. All of the builders of this app are guys that come from the trenches, so I really appreciate that. But really, I think that from the beginning, what has always animated me so much about this app is just that it is fun, man. Like, I think I'm one of the rare people, right, that kind of crosses over where I just actually really like fantasy football. I play fantasy baseball right now. Like, those are just things that are fun for me. So to, again, take the kind of useless headspace of knowledge about crypto Twitter and even my own tweeting now as a hero, right? And to be able to monetize that in any way is ridiculously awesome, right? It's just so fun. And it's not just like a little side hustle. This is like lucrative stuff here. And maybe you're a user right now and you're like, hey, listen, man, like, I can't relate. I get that. But I think that there have been so many opportunities, whether you're a hero or a user, or like me, both, to be able to take advantage of this market, but most of all, be able to have fun while you're doing it. We kind of got a taste of this when Friend Tech dropped, but I think that fantasy has just animated us so much more with this being built on top of Twitter to both be able to kind of promote the content, both I think the obviously just like regular content that we expect on crypto Twitter, but then also kind of just the extant analysis and commentary that's going on so often. There's a lot of these names here that you'll see, like maybe an Imran Khan who works for Alliance DAO, or a War Daddy. Shout out to Jen. All of these creators who have just picked up on the fantasy trend and have been running with it. So just shout out to those guys. They've been doing awesome work, and I think it's just reinvigorated a lot of people in a down time in the market, right? I've thought about this a few times, guys, right? Like, imagine if we didn't have fantasy right now. Like, I'm not just trying to talk my own bags. I actually think that things would be much sadder on the timeline. Like, I would just be a lot more despondent. But I just feel like there's so much opportunity in this market, even when, Bitcoin has likely topped for this cycle, or Ethereum will never have a new narrative again. Not like I actually believe that, but still, I think that there's just been so much fun to be had on fantasy. And so that's just been an awesome thing to be a part of here. Okay. All right, let's dive in. Let's get into it, guys. Why not? Hey, let's take a look at me. Why not? This will give you guys just like a little sense of like where things are going. Don't love the red arrow, but hey, it's been a bit of a downtime. I've had some good tweets that I've been firing off. I'm posting things that I think are funny. If you guys saw my drafts right now with all of the tournaments that are coming up, you would be probably equally surprised and amazed, shocked and awed, as it were. But I've got a lot of content that I'm excited to put out and just keep on consistently trying to have fun. I'm not really changing the posting style that I had. I kind of considered maybe going the route of like trying to do analysis and everything. To be honest, that's just not me. It's just not really where I have fun with all of this, and we've done pretty well. As you can see here, we're ranking in at the top 50. That's going to be consistently my goal. Would love to be top 30. So we'll aim to get back there with these tournaments coming up. But we've had over almost 30 ETH of volume done on the card. That's just awesome. For you guys that don't know, actually, heroes get 1.5% of all of the trading fees on their cards. So that's just a great incentive. And it's good to know as a user, right? Because you are able to find people that are incentivized, that are going to work for their bags. If there's any piece of alpha that I can pass along here, guys, right, it's just that you want to find, unless it's just one of these crazy top 10, top 20 people that you pack who are very expensive, if you have capital, go for it, right? Like, these are studs. You want to find people that are hungry. You want to find people that haven't made it. I wish that we could, maybe not actually, because this would be embarrassing for me, right? But like, if you could have a good sense of the net worth of all of these people along the heroes here, I think it would give you a good sense of who's really going to be working to move their ways up the chart here. And then also there's just the old dogs that just love to tweet, that just love to get after it. And they're going to keep posting regardless, right? There are multi-millionaires that are on this list who just enjoy shit posting. So that's awesome. But there's also, I think, some guys, some girls that have not made it, that haven't actually secured generational wealth, right? Hey, this is my generational wealth, baby. Some fan points that we have going on right here. But that's really the kind of, if you're on a budget, kind of hero that you want to look for, in my opinion. So hey, let's dive in here. There's actually something that we can do that's kind of fun is let's look at main tournament 2 here, which is starting in less than a day, 20 hours. I think it's starting tomorrow, like midday sometime. I'm Eastern Standard Time in the US. So that'll be popping off and we'll just be firing off the content here. So you can take a look at actually the cards that I've put together. A more helpful place actually to start, though we'll submit my lineup in a bit here, is on the portfolio page. So a few things that you can note here. Hey, portfolio value, we're banging, guys. We're doing great. We're over 3 ETH. That's ridiculous. I mean, some of these, again, you got to recognize that your portfolio value is going to be kind of paper money here, right? This is not exactly maybe what you could get that's liquid, although the team has introduced bids, which gives you instant liquidity on a lot of these cards. So that's awesome. But still, I was trying to think of this as I was going into making this video to try to have I wish I had an exact number of like the initial ETH that I've actually deposited. I want to say it's somewhere on the order, it's probably like 1.25 ETH, something like that. I'm not a big baller, but I've actually allocated a fair amount of my portfolio into fantasy just because I think it's money that's not only well spent, but that's going to retain its value, both relatively in terms of cards, but also with regard to being able to farm blast. And then later, I think what's going to prove potentially even more lucrative is farming these fan points, right? Which I think are going to be just an awesome token that's going to have so much use if that comes down the line for us, right? Hey, I'm not saying token financial advice. I'm just saying, listen, we know what points are. We know they're backed by Manifold. So I think there's a good shot that down the line we get a fan token here, right? So again, I mean, that's a clean, I mean, what, 2.5 at least X here, maybe liquid. We called it a 2X here on the portfolio. In addition to, Blast Gold, which conservatively is maybe $10 per. I've won this from the few tournaments that we've had going on. We have stars here, which stars are going to be used in the lottery, which is going to be coming down the pike here. We don't know a ton about the lottery. I do have a sense that that we're going to have some fun with the lottery here in a few weeks, and that'll be another wrinkle that's getting added in. And then my ETH that we have up here, I don't have a ton loaded in right now. I'm thinking about clipping maybe like another 0.7 ETH, something like that into here. But that would just involve me flooring my rune pup. If you guys know anything about Bitcoin puppets, I'm not really sure how actually bullish I am on runes long term. So I have this rune pup that's just sitting in my inventory right now, and it probably is the Pico bottom and the worst time to floor it. But I also just kind of have this desire to get my money in a place where I have high conviction. Should I have done that when it was 8 times higher? Yes, I should have. But again, we're 40 IQ here. We're not really the big ballers. That's why we're hustling on Fantasy Top, right? So maybe I'll make a dumb decision there. Maybe that will be smart in the long run. I feel like either way, if I held my pups, it would probably go up over time. If I deploy it into Fantasy, that's probably a good use of it as well. So if I were to do that, we can look at the marketplace in a little bit here, and maybe we can see some of the moves that I'm kind of contemplating or thinking about, and we can go from there. I'll tell you guys about my lineup now. I want to peek into the marketplace in a bit here and look through just some of the kind of quick reads that I might have, especially for some people that might be trying to put together kind of a lineup on a budget. I would love to dive into that a little bit and give you just some of my takes on maybe who's undervalued or overvalued. Although again, this is all just speculation. This is just kind of my analysis off the dome. And so don't take this as financial advice, but maybe food for thought for you as you go about making some decisions yourself. So with the exception of maybe making one change here down the line, if I were to deploy capital and try to improve my main lineup spot a little bit more, I think this is what it's looking like for us here with our top 5. I actually rolled out a lineup very similar to this just in the last week here for main tournament 1. Although instead of this pancakes bra here, I actually just started myself. Hey, a little humble brag there, started myself. I know I'm at least going to be consistent. And so I added in the pancakes bra. He was super undervalued. I think I got him for a 0.17 steal just earlier today. Pancakes is just dedicated to the grind. He's one of the best posters on Twitter, and he's really been active lately. So I think that that's just left him relatively undervalued. And I think that even just today, his value has gone up. I think, yeah, I mean, this is up almost 0.1 just since I bought earlier. And I think that's just because people realize the greatness of a pancakes bra. The only sadness I have here is that last time I had a lot of fun saying that I had a Remelia and Puppets Maximalist lineup. So true. That will always be the core of the lineups that we're trying to put out here, because those are just the people that get it, man. They get it. Okay. So I really like this lineup. I got Base Dom. I'm at a time when his rares, I think, were relatively undervalued. Base Dom is just an awesome Radbro poster and a great guy to stick with. Skizzer, a shitcoin caller that's just been getting after it. I'm in the trenches here for a long time, and I'm just a fan of his personally. Alon, one of the founders of Pump.Fun, pretty consistent card across the board. And then Glebel, another just base shitcoiner who just knows how to post. So that's just a good, solid lineup. I feel pretty good about this lineup, although my expectation is that it would probably get me to, maybe a similar place unless we had some real pop compared to where I finished in these first few tournaments. And let's take a look at that real quick here. So main tournament 1, we finished at 764th place out of 18,000 people. Listen, that's nothing to sneeze at, right? I'm not upset about that by any means. Would I love to be, top 500, top 250? Of course, that would be ideal. That is the goal. So that's really why I'm thinking of maybe deploying more capital here, is that I think this is just a great investment in all of the rewards that you can get, right? There were a lot of top finishers that actually got some allocations of ETH, which is pretty awesome to get that back out of the tournament. In addition to gold here, and then stars, which will be for, again, the lottery, and then some strong fan point allocations, which I'm just hyped at. I can't wait to be a fan points millionaire. That's really the goal here over the next few months, is just to max that out as best as we can. Oh, And we had an even better finish in the Flash tournament here, 402nd out of 13,000. We'll take that, man. We'll take that. That's just good stuff across the board. So for this coming week, I would love to finish a little bit higher than this, and it'll really just kind of depend on the performance of the tweeters that I'm going to put out there, and just kind of see how things go. I feel like with the amount of money that I have going in, there may be a few places that I could try to min max, but I feel like for the money that I've invested, I'm pretty happy with the lineup that I have. So why don't you come along with me here? Let's boom, add. We got Base Dom in, we got a Pancakes Bra in, we got a Skizzer in, we got an Elan in, and we got a Gleb. And we'll be registered from here. Ooh, we got a little graphic here, a little deck locked. The team has been shipping the fun little graphics there. And so we'll be in the game here now. No matter what, we're registered, we're ready to go. Like I said, one change maybe coming down the line here, but I feel good about that. So let's pop it back over here to the profile. So you guys might have seen this. The team just announced today that a fun wrinkle for the common tournament that's coming up, right, is going to be determined with your lineup based off of a set number of stars. So stars here are a recent feature that came out on Mainnet. And what it correlates with is actually the performance of the tweeter in like a given time frame, right? So stars can go up and down each week relative to the performance of the tweeter, of the poster, as it were. And so, for instance, like I was maxed out on stars last week. I actually lost a few because I didn't have as many bangers, as it were. I haven't been performing up to my my normal standards, maybe. But that's actually good for me this week because, like I said, the Commons Only tournament has a stars limit, which is 20 stars. So the lineup that you put out there for the Commons Only can't just be maxed out with all just like what is it? What is the maximum? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stars, I think is the max here. So I've got an Alex, which I think Alex is super underrated right now. He's been consistently a top 20 finisher, even though his hero score is a little bit low right now. I think that this guy will probably turn it on. I'm just a fan of Alex on the timeline, and he just knows how to both be quality and consistent. So this guy just gets after it all the time. But I've been thinking about how to put together my 20-star lineup, and I've done a little bit of optimizing for that. I redeployed some capital here. I moved some cards around. I posted this the other day. Just from the cards, if you guys saw, I got 5 cards from this last main tournament. Just off of bid value alone, I got over 0.6 ETH in unrealized ETH value just from this last tournament from cards that I drew. So that's just an awesome win there. And it would actually be even more now, I think, because I pulled a Mika, and she's one of the new heroes that was just dropped in this last week here. And she is pretty undervalued, or maybe now, maybe overvalued. I don't know. She hasn't really been in a tournament yet, but she's already at almost a 0.4 floor, which I think is doubled since I got her. So I think if you were to look at the unrealized value now, I mean, yeah, she's got a bid that I could sell right now for like $1,000. That's ridiculous. But I think that Mika is probably somebody who has a lot of room just to go viral, right? I feel like when you see an e-girl on the timeline, when you see an e-girl on fantasy, they a lot of times just have a good grasp on virality. If you know anything about me, you know I'm probably not the biggest fan of e-girls in general. That's just my personal bias. But I still feel pretty bullish on Mika in fantasy top context, and I've definitely thought about flipping her a few times. I just also think that she probably has a good chance to potentially grow. One, because just like I said earlier, of the kind of pattern of maybe the e-girl, as it were, but also that I think she's going to be dedicated. I think she's going to post a lot. And she has an interview that I'm not sure if it's dropped yet or not, but with Ansem coming out soon on her podcast. And so I feel like that's just going to do numbers. That's just going to get a lot of views. So I feel pretty good about this as a short to midterm hold. And we'll probably roll her out in our commons lineup here. So just for what my 20-star lineup would look like right now, and to kind of piece this together for you guys, I got myself, which is a 5, Pancakes, which is a 4, and then Mika, which is a 3. So that brings me to 12. And then I think we're going to roll out an Alex here, which is a 6. So that brings us to 18, and then a Vers Laloon at a 2. So Vayers, I feel really good about because when he was on testnet, he was very inconsistent. He's kind of like a boom bust if you're a fantasy football player, wide receiver, right? This guy could go for like 150 yards or a 0. And I think that's a risk I'm willing to take because now that this is real money, I think that Vayers is going to be dedicated, and he's also just a super funny guy. He knows how to post, and I think that he really has a shot to be up there with like a Lucas. And he might not deliver in the same way as performatively, but that's why I copped a rare Vayers up here. Is that I'm just bullish on this guy long term. I think he's got a lot of juice, got a lot of gas in the tank, and that this guy is probably undervalued relative to where he can go. I think that his cards are selling for 0.3 right now, so that's a pretty cheap rare to go after if you're somebody who's deploying maybe in the neighborhood of 0.3 to 0.5 ETH. I feel like that's a guy that has a lot of room to grow. I would not be surprised at all in a tournament or in a few weeks here to see him living in the top 15 or 20, at least for a time. So you might be wondering, why do I have this 5 supply of Mike DeMarays right here and a Jason Choi that are just chilling? There's kind of 2 reasons here, right? Number 1 is that you might have noticed with the new Blast jackpot that recently launched, that just by having fantasy cards in your wallet, you can actually profit off of gold if fantasy wins the Blast jackpot. So for every card that you have just in your inventory in general, if the Blast jackpot hits on fantasy for a second time, which it's weighted very heavily because of its amount of users that it's brought, the adoption that it's brought to Blast, you win a amount of Blast gold for every card in your lineup. So it's advantageous to you to hold a number of cards, even if they might not be ones that are going to play, especially if you think that they're going to hold your value. So Jason Choi and Mike DeMarays are 2 basically like floor cards. They kind of trace what the global floor of fantasy top is. And on one hand, that's really been growing. Mike DeMarays is the founder of Rainbow. He doesn't tweet a lot, but he's a good guy. And Jason Choi is a VC. So that's kind of part of it, right, is why I'm comfortable holding these, is I'm confident that the global floor, personally, I think is going to grow over time. But also a feature that you might not be aware of that is likely coming soon, I've heard the team kind of tease it, is the potential for, again, in the interest of making fantasy even more deflationary from a card supply perspective, the ability is written into the code already, it just hasn't been enabled yet, to be able to burn 5 cards to be able to get another random card, right? So that's a bit of a gamble here, but it's one that, for instance, in a few weeks, I'll be willing to take with maybe 0.07 or 0.08 ETH to wing it with a Mike DeMarays to see if we can just pack or pull in that way a better card down the line. And even if that kind of doesn't shake out the way that I want it to, if it falls in that 0.04, 0.05 range, I'm not going to be taking too much of a hit there. That's a risk that I'm willing to put myself in position for, along with this global floor proposition that I have. That's something I feel good about, along with the jackpot, just feeling like I have a little bit of confidence there. I did wonder afterwards if maybe I shouldn't have bought a Mike DeMarays, maybe somebody that was a little bit higher floor that I felt like might accumulate a little more value over time. But I'm kind of a midwit, and I bought Mike DeMarays, and maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't, but this was kind of a bet that I was willing to take, and a way to just deploy a little bit of dust, a little bit of extra capital that I had sitting around on fantasy to get it kind of deployed into cards that I'm maybe not super confident in long term, but have some good maybe theses around to see how it all plays out there. Okay. Woo. All right. Woo. We're taking a break. We're catching our breath here. Let's take a look at the marketplace right now. We can just pop over here. There's lots of trading, lots of fun stuff that's happening, I'm sure, live as we take a peek over here. If we look at the activity on fantasy right now, I mean, we're just popping off transactions. I mean, this is in the last minute alone that we've seen all of this action just in the marketplace. Like, there's just a lot of buyers. I think I've seen that there's over something like 20,000 active players, and that the retention has been well over 50% from those first few tournaments. I expect both the retention to grow, but also the total number of users potentially to grow over time, as there's this flywheel effect with more and more influencers being onboarded who have a financial incentive to tweet about it to bring their followerships onto this app. I think that, without, again, getting too crazy bullish on you, I think that this is really just only the beginning for fantasy. This is really just the start in a lot of ways. So I've got a little filter here for 0.18. Let's just take a look at what the most expensive cards are. That's crazy, man. Jen is selling for 13 ETH. I think that one of those sold earlier today. That's like $40,000. I mean, that's just crazy, guys. That these are going out there. Oh, okay. Jen is actually just the highest ranked card right now for the highest value. We've got a trading axe here that's at an epic, selling for 47 ETH. That's ridiculous, man. Over 6 figures of value here, locked up in a trading axe. I sure wish I had a retardio like that. That would make me feel real good about myself. These are a lot of just legendaries and epics that are just phenomenal posters that just know how to get it done. And so I don't know how much volume is happening here, but still, this gives you just a sense of what kind of the top end of the marketplace looks at. Okay, so let's take a look here. Let's say you're looking to build a lineup and you're going to be deploying maybe in like the 0.1 to like 0.3 range. I feel like that's like pretty reasonable. Maybe you have a few $100 up to $1,000 and you're trying to get in the game here with the main tournament or commons only tournament. I'm just going to scroll here and go off kind of the top of my head here and give some thoughts. One is that Imran Khan is a Alliance DAO founder, a general partner there, I believe. And I think that his card has really good potential to stay very high, because one of the things that you can notice if you follow him on Twitter, ranked at number 24 right now, is that Imran is kind of someone who, by being affiliated with Alliance, which is the incubator that Fantasy is a part of, he has aligned himself with the success of Fantasy. So more and more attention is going to be coming to his account on Twitter and to his tweets relative to the success of Fantasy. So I think that's something to look for, is that if you're bullish on Fantasy, you want to find creators that are aligned with the potential success of this app down the line here. So Imran, maybe he won't always be at that number 24 spot, but that could be a very good starting place for like a number one scorer, as it were, that you're going to go after here as you're building your lineup. Although, again, if you're in that lower price range, putting in 0.9 ETH into one card might be a bit pricey for you, but still I feel like that's a person who has great room to grow. Another example of a Fantasy Align creator is Apex, right? He's just a gaming guy. He puts out really good threads and content on the timeline. This is somebody who has positioned themselves as a bull on Fantasy, who's motivated to tweet about it. I think that that's another great standby card that you could have in your lineup. If you're maybe deploying a little more capital even, you could put some more money in and go out and grab 5 of these and get a rare Apex, which is going to be scoring you in the 800 to 900 hero points range for 0.35 ETH. You know, as rares go, that's going to be a really solid contributor in your lineup. One thing to note here, as I'm talking a lot about hero scores, is something that's a bit of an unknown, is that the team is actually working right now on a new algorithm for how heroes are going to be scored. If you've been around the fantasy block here for this last week and a half, you saw last week the effects of botting on fantasy and the different competitions that were going on. So for some context here, previously that the scores, hero scores, were generated based off of roughly, I think, your impressions generated, basically the views on your tweets relative to the number of followers that you have. And that was giving you a reach score and the inevitable problems that were coming there, which the team did their best at, but it was kind of an unforeseen thing that followers would start to get botted. What actually started to happen was that both tweets were getting botted with views, which they were able to sort for to an extent, but also followers were starting to get botted, which was kind of bad. Kind of bad. But more than kind of bad, it was really bad, because people don't want their Twitter accounts to get compromised in that way, to maybe get, you know, hit by Twitter with like a one shadow ban at best, let alone like suspensions or things like that can come from your follower accounts being botted like very conspicuously, right? So the team is doing their best now on the back end to put together a new hero score that is going to balance both capitalizing on reach within crypto Twitter, but also accounting for things like incentivizing or helping smaller accounts that are not maybe as follower heavy to be able to still score relative to the value that they're generating with regard to their tweeting, while also helping some of the maybe larger kind of old generation of Twitter accounts that are older heads on crypto Twitter to be able to not be docked so much by having maybe larger followings that don't have as many active people. How does the team do that? I don't know, man. That's way beyond me. But luckily, there's smarter minds than mine that are working on this. So I do think that it's good to note that these hero scores are, I think, under the old system. But within the next 5 days, the team is going to be shipping the next version of hero scores to try and get a better approach here to the way that we're scoring these games. So I'm excited to see what they come out of the pike here. But I will say that I still think that my analysis holds pretty true, because I'm pretty familiar with, I would say, maybe 90% of these Twitter accounts. So I'm able to give something of a read here that I think will hold true regardless of how maybe hero score action evolves over the next 5 days or so here. So let's keep scrolling. Let's go a little bit lower. I'm going to go a little bit lower just to give us a bit more of a top end. Let's go to 0.06 and just take a look here. Look, like I said earlier, I'm a big fan of Skizzer. You guys saw him rolling out a rare of his. I feel like that's a great addition to your lineup. Skizzer is just a dedicated guy. He's going to go after it. Pre-Rich has also been someone that's performed really well. I think he's kind of a shitcoin caller, and also just some like horny posting, which I'm not a big fan of myself, but that's his style, and I think he's been performing pretty well. So another good addition to your lineup. One thing that I'll note here is that Mikado, right, is one of the devs of Fantasy Top. So this is another example of someone who is aligned with the growth of fantasy, where his follower account and tweets can both be relevant on the fantasy front, where people are going to want to see and engage those as they're interested in the game. But Mikado also showed in the last tournaments that he's willing to turn it up during the games, stir up some controversy, shitpost, get after it, to be able to put himself in the best position possible. He has some pride. He has some real edge and a desire to get himself up there. And if a Mikado is too steep for you, someone that you could look at is a Kippet, who's actually, we learned on the fantasy show the other day, his twin brother, but is also one of the devs, and maybe not as active of a tweeter, but I also think has the fire to want to really get out there and keep tweeting, and again, is someone that's going to be aligned with the growth of fantasy. So if you're bullish long-term, holding a Mikado and a Kippet at this price point, I think is probably a relatively safe bet. Again, not financial advice. That's where someone like a Travis Bickle, who's really kind of made himself the public face of fantasy, he's a good deal more expensive, but he's someone who is, if you have a bit more capital, someone that is going to be in the same vein as a Racer on Friendtech, right? Racer, who is the founder of Friendtech and has been leading the charge over there. His Friendtech card was always very, very highly valued, even more so outstripping maybe the inherent quality of his content, although Racer is a great poster. But a really strong corollary to the success of Friendtech was holding a Racer card. In turn, I think that you can make that bet, that same bet there with Kippet and with Mikado and even a Travis if you're a big baller. So let's keep scrolling here. Those are just a few names that I like. I really like AI Rev. This is another guy who's been committed, it seems like, to putting out really informative content along with a good mix of shit posting in there. At a 0.4, I feel like that's a strong addition to your lineup, and he's outperformed in some tournaments that he's been a part of. A shout out here to OX Pajke, who is just a good Milady poster and a good addition to your lineup. I don't know how frequent he is. I think he's a bit of a whale. So that's something that you kind of just want to keep an eye on, right? Is that, again, when I talk about this hungriness, a whale is a great person if you know that they're committed to the grind, right? There are guys on here that are whales that are committed to the grind, like say a Bitcoin Palmer or guys like that. I mean, DCF God put like $600,000 or $700,000 into fantasy when it was just in the capital allocation phase before launch. But you want to know that, again, your accounts that you're going to roll out in a lineup are just hungry, that they're consistent, that they want to make it. Those are the kind of guys that I want to bet on. Although, again, like, there's no shade to anyone that is bigger, whether it's in terms of following or net worth. It's just asking, like, what is going to be their motivation in a relative tournament to go out there and put their best foot forward. Those are the bets that I want to make. Andy, an NFT account here, this is one that I've noted. He's actually outperformed in some of the recent tournaments, but his 7-day rolling score might not be as high. But that's something to keep an eye on, is that I think that Andy might be a bit of a sneaky bet here. Icebergy is kind of an example of an old head and a whale, but he's had some really good content. He's just a great poster. And this guy, I think, is a fantasy. I don't know if he's an advisor, but he's been involved since testnet and is another good buy there, I think, potentially, if you're looking to fill out a lineup. Not so fast. I just really like this guy. I don't know if I would throw him in my lineup, but he's super solid. Only 3 stars. Nowhere at 2 stars, I feel like, is a great bet here for the Commons tournament if you're trying to fill out your 20 stars. He's a young guy. I think he just graduated from college. He's doing research now for Barachain, but Nowhere is just a really good guy who puts out informative content. I feel like just with relative to how young he is, that he probably hasn't, again, made it yet. So he probably has some financial incentive here to be the best card that he can be. So again, for 2 stars and 0.35 ETH, 0.035 ETH, I think that could be a good direction to go there. We'll keep scrolling. We got the Mr. Beast of Friend Tech here. Controversial guy, but still listed here as a good following. Good for him to get listed. John Wang, I've always liked as a guy who is maybe towards the floor here with regard to his hero score, but he's a very consistent poster on the timeline. I feel like I've seen him in some of the previous tournaments that we've had, especially the first sub tournament, outperform his 7-day rolling average. So that's a great guy to look at here. And I'll give you maybe 1 or 2 more. We are kind of getting towards the edge here. Here's the example of some of those very floor, global floor bets, like Barack Crimo, who I think is a VC, doesn't do a lot of posting. Viscontes Lens, who's a VC, who I think just the other day was kind of doing like the Arthur Smith, who was the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Like, I don't care about your fantasy team posting. So he's probably not going to be the best guy to bet on, but maybe a good bet for that global floor. Although, again, I might be totally off base there. So there's some of those guys. I want to give you one more maybe good example. Here's Vares down at 0.024. Again, I just feel like someone who's good to bet on. Luke Martin is a big guy who has a podcast that I enjoy listening to called Stacks, and does some good informative content. He's been pretty quiet as of late, but I feel like if Luke turned it on, he might even just for his pride want to move up the charts. I think that he's someone who could really capitalize both off of the new hero scoring, but also is just someone who has a lot of want to, and I think is really savvy crypto head. So a good guy to potentially hit your wagon to. Okay, I feel like we've done a lot of decent analysis here. I can't call it great, but these are just thoughts off the top of my head. Maybe one more is just an intern here, right, who is, I think, leading growth for Monad. He's just a good guy and only 2 stars here. At 0.054, he's going to be ranked a little bit higher than maybe some of these other cards in terms of ETH value right now. But I think that intern, both with Monad having bullish catalysts coming down the line in terms of announcements and things like that, that could be a great person to put your money with and make a bet on. Also, just knowing that intern has a ton of like shitposting skill in his back pocket. If you don't know this, he actually for a long time was the CMS intern and ran the CMS holdings account, which is just consistently bangers. Whoever their intern is now, shout out to that guy because he's a great poster. But intern's got it in his back pocket. He makes memes, he's tapped in, and that could be a good person. Again, being in touch with Monad, that might be someone to add in to the lineup. So there's just some kind of initial thoughts. Oh, maybe one more is just that Z right here, who I just think is a great guy, great poster, has kind of led the charge with the Pepe coin. He, I think, could be just a good buy now, even though 0.058 could be steep, as someone who with Pepe ripping ridiculously right now, and I think it will only, this is just my opinion, will continue to rip. It's added like $1 billion in market cap in the last like 24 hours alone. Z is someone who is, again, hitched in that way, a lot of sense to Pepe coin. And so I think that he also is someone that's just like a great both shit poster, but also he'll stir up some controversy. He'll get into it with other people. That's a great way to drive engagement. Might be a good foundational building block for a budget lineup here. Okay. Yes. All right, we're regrouping, we're thinking here. Guys, I don't really feel like I have a ton more for you here. Let's go over to our, let's go over and claim our daily quest for today. If you're on the app and you're not doing this, you're missing out because you can earn free fan points from doing this. I've got a 10-day record. You just go in and click on claim every 24 hours. Hey, Guys, I feel like this is just like a good, I hope, overview of where my thoughts are, of kind of looking back over the last week and giving you a thought process for where I'm going, how I'm thinking about the game right now. And guys, I'm just really excited. I'm just really enjoying fantasy. Like I said, it's really been a bright spot in a down time in the market, and something that I only continue to think will take over as they just got a 2.2 or 2.1 million blast gold incentive. I think if you have a sense that after the blast airdrop it's the end of the road for fantasy, that's probably the wrong read, because I think again that the fan points might even be more alpha than the blast airdrop is going to end up being, although I think that both could potentially be lucrative. So overall, I just think that fantasy is a great place to put your time and attention, whether it's as a hero, if you're someone who's a big influencer and account and tweeting to try and get listed. If you're interested in that, feel free to reach out to me or to Travis, and we can do a little bit of talk about the onboarding. I've helped the team some with regard to onboarding in that way, which has been a lot of fun. And I also would recommend, just as a user, to get in the trenches, both for tournament's sake, but also I think that there's a lot of opportunities here for flipping in the short to midterm on cards. If you have a good grasp of crypto Twitter, to be able to get in and buy cards that you think are undervalued relative to their worth, either in the midterm or in the short term. And that's just been a way to really make a lot of money. If you were here at the very beginning, cards were selling at the floor for like $5 or $10, like dust levels of ETH, 0.001, 0.002. So if you just scooped a ton of cards, then you're up like 15x just from the start. I hope that's you, listener. I hope that's you, Anon. I hope you got in the trenches, but whether you're there now or will be soon, hey, best wishes to you. And guys, good luck in the tournament this week. If you have any questions or otherwise, feel free to drop them in the comments or to get me at me on Twitter. I'm happy to help and give as best of a sense as I can on any of the things that you might be wondering about. Make sure to stay tuned, right, for more content from me. Don't forget to like, comment, smash that subscribe button. We got to throw it in there. If you're on Twitter, hit me with the follow. There's going to be lots more fantasy content coming your way, along with the daily shit posts, keeping track of what's going on in the day-to-day on Twitter. And especially follow the fantasy main Twitter account, because we're going to be coming back at you with more fantasy shows on Fridays in the upcoming weeks. I'm super excited about that. We're going to have more great guests lined up. If you want, go back and take a look. If you didn't get a chance to catch it at the last show that we did from last week, we had a bunch of great guests, including Otto Suin, who just got listed as a card and is a wealth of knowledge on fantasy. Great person to follow on Twitter. And also Hero Crypto, who finished in the top 3 of the last tournament. So he's a whale and a good person to just copy trade, or at least like keep a good sense of, because Hero just knows what's up. He was one of the biggest friend tech accounts, and now he's jumped on the fantasy bandwagon, and I think he's in it for all the right reasons, to have fun first, and then also to try to find the right opportunities to make money along the way. So with that, just one final shout out to the team. Thank you to Travis and Mikado and Kippet for all of the work you guys are doing, along with Kilu and 710. You guys are just great, a great team. Really appreciate that you guys are from the trenches, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you for listening to this along the way, and know that there's more content to come. So guys, it's been a lot of fun. This is Cozy Maximalist signing out. Stay cozy, my friends.